returning to the program, my brother, Timothy Allen Olson, here recovering from the most inspiring performance potentially that I have ever witnessed personally. I got to spend a day with you out on the trail, but of course, Timothy just returning home after completing the entirety of the Pacific Crest Trail in record time, finishing how many days ago, Tim?
Gosh, a little over 2 weeks ago. So it's crazy that 2 weeks have passed because it feels like it's been years ago and it feels like I just finished. So it's a very weird feeling right now.
Yeah. Well, dude, thank you so much for coming on. I would have so been looking forward to this. And honestly, I felt a little nervous about this just because having witnessed your effort, at least for one day, I mean, dude, it was a thing to behold. Like, you have a presence about you that is special, dude. It's really special. And we will go into that here in a little bit. But honestly, man, I'm honored that you would come on and share the story with us. And, you know, as we talked about last time, we're longtime friends. We've both been in the sport a long time. We've both been through our highs and lows. And this must feel like the biggest high of all time. Is that how you're feeling right now?
Yeah, man. So first of all, thank you for having me back on the show. Stoked to be here. And thank you for joining me on, a little bit of the PCT. It was such a highlight to have you there. And I'm still fully in it. It's been, a couple of weeks, but it's just been such a process to integrate back into normal life, man. For going from that, I mean, just even think 2 weeks ago. So I finished it, ran the 30 miles back because Canada wasn't open. So, good little plus, little bonus.
A little cool down.
A little cool down. So, I make my way back and then we get into the RV and then start heading back to Colorado. And so, I got one night's sleep or, some sleep. We started going back and such a surreal feeling. Like, it was what I worked for the whole time of I just wanted to be with my family, in the car, singing a song, eating some crappy food and rejoicing that we did this and pretty much unscathed. I could have been in much darker place. So many things could have went wrong. So it's just just giving thanks that we all came together and that we finished it. And then it's just and then it clicks in. It was the next day where all of a sudden my body is shutting down. I'm like, oh yeah, it's not done yet. It's I shared this the other day, but it's what I've taught my kids numerous times when they're climbing up a rock face or something. If you're going to climb up,
you gotta come down.
You gotta come down. Yeah. And so man, I was on a high. It was awesome that we were done, but with all good things like that, you got to come back to reality. And it was a big reality check of I can't move. It was really challenging, but my legs basically stopping like that. I explain it like this too, of doing 50 miles a day, nonstop, sleeping a couple hours, getting up, rubbing your legs a little bit and going again. It was like a car crash. I just instantly stopped.
Really? So it was almost like your brain understood that the mission was accomplished and it was over, and it set the signal to your body that, okay, you're off the hook now.
I think a little bit. I think even the couple days beforehand, I would think I told myself 50 days for this. And I was joking with Coop, we're at 51 days and some hours right now. And my body is I told it 50 days. And so it was my calf was doing all kinds of things and shutting down prior to the finish and then having to get back. And yeah, it was wild.
Wow, dude. Oh my God. So before we go into the effort itself a little bit, I'd love to sort of stay on this immediate aftermath subject for a bit. Obviously, there must have been an incredible feeling of elation and accomplishment and probably relief to be done. Was there any in the last 2 weeks moments where maybe there was a little sort of like mourning, like that it is over, that it is behind you. And even though it was phenomenally successful, this thing that you've been thinking about since the birth of your career, as we talked about on our last podcast, is now behind you. As you mentioned before we hit record here, the Olympics are going on, and there's the phenomenon that Olympic athletes deal with when they've been thinking about this goal forever. And whether it goes well and you win a gold medal or you have a huge disappointment, it's often the case that athletes kind of go through this mourning period after these big, huge, career changing endeavors. Have you found that to be the case in the last 2 weeks?
Maybe a little bit. I feel like, I do feel in a sense that like I got that gold medal. I even more so, man, like this, I don't know how long it's going to take for this to sink in, man. Like you got to see a day of it. And like, it's more so like I witnessed it like happening, like where I was watching myself do this and in just disbelief, like just incredible to get to those last 10 days. I literally had no clue each morning how I got up and like kept going and that I would do 50 to 60 miles. I was doing some 60-mile days there at the end where just I would get done with the day and just like lay on the ground in disbelief. Like how did that just occur? How did I do that? This is so out of body. This is so like, when an athlete is in the zone and like,
yeah,
putting up stats like Michael Jordan, like when he's sick and still doing game, whatever and stuff. I just felt like in this place where like, you
couldn't be stopped, dude. Like I said,
I'm trying.
You had something going on, man. Like, honestly, it was a presence. As I said, when I spent that day with you, man, you could feel it in the air. Your determination and just your spirit, man. It was such an amazing thing to behold. And I'm sure the people who were with you for the entirety of this 50-day mission probably got to see the really dark moments. But man, you were in the zone. It was like Michael Jordan's flu game for 50 days. It seemed like for the outside observers.
I felt a little sick, like with like 5 days to go. I was having these cold sweats in the middle of the day and like wanted to sleep. And I was just so worried I was getting sick or what was going on. And the whole time I was purifying. I was purging out what didn't serve me and somehow continuing to go on. Like that day I went over, like I was freezing. It was still, a nice day out there, but I was like having these cold sweats where I was like, sweating, getting cold. I wanted to sit, like lay down. I like laid down for 10 minutes and like was going to fall asleep. And I was just like, I can't, I knew it wasn't safe. Like where I was, I just couldn't just start laying down there. I didn't have enough clothes, enough stuff with me that I knew I needed to continue on. And it was just these different moments where I don't know how, how I kept going and that my body like responded to everything I asked for, and not always like in the time. It was just these continual lessons of like being patient and like just, asking the body for more, listening to it and being okay. It might take, a few hours longer than I was thinking, but like my body is still doing everything I'm asking and more. Yeah. And like back to the recovery too, I do want to share a little bit more about that because, it was definitely a huge part of it. It was a big shock for me of coming into this and like, so my legs like went into these spasms where like every muscle like fired up, like when you go into a cramp and wouldn't let go. And so like this
is after you finished, like right after you finished?
A couple days. Yeah. So it was like, I felt kind of good. And even like the first day we had the RV and I wasn't driving. So like I moved up to get some food and like, just like felt, we were like singing songs with the boys and like, pretty high spirits and whatnot. And then it's just like, I was super tired and sleeping a little bit, but then the next day waking up and like trying to go to the bathroom and everything cramping in my legs when I sat down on the toilet and going into just complete spasm. It was like, I mean, the most hilarious thing, if I wasn't like crying while it was going on because I was in so much pain. It was
you go from the biggest high of your entire life to sitting on the toilet in total spasm, feeling like
to not being able to actually take a shit. Like,
oh my God.
It was from complete high to low. That's the whole journey. It kind of sums it up right there of
wow.
Elation, singing with your boys, everything accomplished. And then next thing you know, you can't walk, and not just that you can't walk, like that would have been nice. Just everything was spasming and so painful when we got home here. So I was like I was laying down in an RV. I could not like sit. I tried to like sit up in the passenger spot and like buckle up, and everything went into spasm. I couldn't do that.
Wow.
And so then I had to lay down, and that took days. So I was like in the RV. We eventually got back to Colorado. The walk from my RV to the home was like one of the most excruciating. Like when my calf was really messed up, getting closer to Oregon, that was like, I thought the most pain I've ever had in my life. And I still think that was like the most pain because it was like every step was excruciating, but in intensity, like this was like, I felt like I was being tortured. It was so much pain and I couldn't walk. The walk from the RV to inside to like, I was trying to get to a bed and I couldn't even get to a bed. I had to lay down on the couch there. And that was like, I just sat there and cried for a little, like, it was so much pain. It was, and then like, sit there, I'm trying to breathe and like just having to surrender so much to the moment. Cause like any movement was just so much pain. So I tried to like sit with it, breathe with it, and breathing like wasn't working to like the muscles wouldn't let go. They just stood there like clinging. And, but
it's just like the run. You got to just, endure that pain, let the acute healing happen. And eventually the body comes back around. Man, you look good. Just looking at you through Zoom right now. Like, man, it feels like you could put in a 50-mile day today.
Yeah.
So let's talk.
I'm sitting cross-legged right now, which is pretty impressive. Today, this morning was the first time I did exercise. And exercise, I meaning I walked. My son rode their bike. I walked, and my pregnant wife walked with me, and who's like, a couple weeks from giving birth, and she's walking faster than me. My kids are like, "Come on, Dad," and I'm like, I'm just hobbling, and I'm 2 weeks out. Like I'm like post 100-mile race. And like 2 weeks out from this. So, I mean, like, at least I had something to compare it with, but then it was also that thing, like, no one's done what I've done that like, I was a little nervous of like, what is all happening in my body? What
happens?
What's going to keep happening? Like when I was going into like those spasms, I was like, is this going to keep happening up my body? Is this, where is this going to end? Where's this going to end?
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear that there's been some progress and that you got that nice little walk in with your family. And that's one of the things I want to talk about here eventually is just that family vibe. And just that part of the story is also so special. And the fact that your 2 infant sons are going to be able to tell this story for the rest of their lives and carry this memory with them. It's such a beautiful thing. And that your baby girl who's coming any day now is also going to have this story, to tell for her whole life. So we'll get to that eventually, but let's talk a little bit about the effort itself. And honestly, I don't know the best direction to go with this because it's such a long thing. And I don't want to make you sort of like talk about every single step of the 5,700 miles. Yeah. So I figured what we do is maybe just kind of like keep it high level, allow you to share any sort of highlights or lowlights. And I figure it's sort of like, if you think about the PCT, you can kind of break it up into 4 pieces: Southern California, Northern California, Oregon, and Washington. And I know, from the start, it's difficult, right? Even though the terrain is probably a little bit more faster, quote unquote. It's a lot as you compare it to the Sierra and the North Cascades and things like that. It's super hot. And so I wondered, if you wanted to share anything about that section in Southern California, what it was like to just kind of get started and get your body used to putting in 50-mile days back to back to back in the heat of Southern California. Were there any moments of doubt early on in the expedition, or were you, clicking on all cylinders from the start?
Yeah, so much involved with this. I guess that's why I keep looking forward to sharing more. And I think we're going to have a movie come out with it, so which will kind of highlight it's, how do you like put together 51 days in a short way in any sense? And it is, yeah,
We
I
need
think
like
breaking
one
up
of those MJ documentaries, we need like
totally.
a 10-part, 10-hour documentary about this,
Oh
at
God.
least. Pass that to the creative people making the movie.
We'll do. Um, I mean, they have a lot of good material to work with. I think
I'm
that's
sure.
what's going to be really entertaining as this keeps progressing, is that like I did have a camera on my face that whole time, and where I was really frustrating at certain points of like really struggling and have a camera there. Gosh, now when we get to look back on this and just even, I mean, talk about like, home movie to the next level of like, just, having your boys and going on a little family, holiday or whatnot. But this is, yeah, a little bit different. There was some business involved, and
Yeah.
to start off, I think I mentioned to you on the trail, but like the first day was magical, where just like it just started really beautifully with having the family, of just being able to, get to be there and set the intention for it, kind of, say a prayer to the land and ask permission to like to go on this journey where so many people have traveled and so many people have been a part of the trail. And just taking care of the land. It wasn't just, so many people have moved from Mexico to Canada and have taken that journey, and much harder than I did it, as I did it supported and with an RV. It's really mind boggling to think of, people moving through this area, whether on foot or horse or whatever, and exploring and seeing these places. And definitely for me, going through the whole process, JB Benna mentioned this when he was running with me on one little section, but just, you may never see this section of land again in your whole life. And, I'll run sections of PCT again. Maybe we'll hike it as a family. You just never know what the PCT has in store for us in the future. But as of right now, I did the whole thing, covering every step of that and getting to see it all. And for me, I'm a very visceral person of really feeling the place, where I looked at maps and watched videos and, had an idea of this, but like when you really live and breathe it and just experience it for all its majesty, it's incredible to be in some of these places where like, yeah, I'll never be here again, or see it as it is. And trying to take that in the midst of trying to do a huge, athletic endeavor, but also, trying to be there with a family and do that, and doing it in a fast way, but for me, it was the only way I wanted to do it. I wanted to do it the way I did, and feel really content with doing it, supported with, how fast I did it, of like still enjoying the trail. I remember every bit of the trail. People always, ask me if I will remember it, or, did I move too quickly to take it all in? And no, the answer is no, man. I soaked this trail in with everything it's worth. And, it's just even the beginning of the heat and actually runnable sections. Like, I remember running through those sections and actually moving and just, dying in the 100+ degree heat. But towards the end, like wanting that, I was like, bring me on 100-degree weather and nice smooth single track, because my feet were just so, it just keeps compounding every single day. It's like, things kind of heal, like things did heal amazingly, but it's just like something pops up. It's just, the whack-a-mole game where it's just every moment something new pops up, and that's kind of the reminder to yourself, like, okay, this really hurts and this is bothering me right now, but that will go away. Or just even the heat. Like I just always knew to take things a little bit more chill in the heat of the day, because I knew that little section from, maybe noon to 4, but just even 1 to 3, 1 to 4 was such a hard section. I wanted to like always take a nap during that section. It was so hot. It always seems to be exposed. It's just,
So you just take it a little easier and try and cover miles a little bit more quickly early in the day and late in the day.
Totally. And you just learn how to deal like with your body and accept it as it is. I remember towards the end where I just, it's comical how slow I move in the morning of like, getting up out of my bivvy and like all of a sudden realizing, okay, I'm awake. Oh, damn it. It's Groundhog Day and I got to do this again. It's like, oh man, like nothing changed. I still have to do this. It wasn't just a dream. And so like, it's like, okay, I normally started with working on my legs for a couple seconds, working on my feet. My feet hurt so much. So whether I was getting out of the RV or getting out of my little bivvy on the ground, I was so sore and like, just in this mindset of like, just shell shocked of like, I don't want to do it again. I can't go out there and do that again.
Yeah.
And then like having that, that first thought of like, I don't want to do this. And then like instantly like bringing it to my breast, putting that away and like, no, like I'm doing this and like sitting up. Like,
dude, you're a stubborn, tough mofo, bro. Like I'm sure people have told you this before, but my God, man, just the one day that I spent with you, like I've been thinking about it ever since. Like it was a seriously like special day for me, man. So let's talk about the Sierra because, this is the part that I got to experience with you just for one day, one of the 51 days that you were out there. And like I said, it was an incredibly special day, but it was clear to me when I found you in the middle of nowhere in the Sierra that you were hurting, man. Like you were hurting. And of course,
grinding up that climb, all of a sudden I see you and I'm like, is that Dylan? I'm like, I didn't know Dylan was coming out here.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
But I think this section was particularly tough for you. Like, I think you were kind of behind the pace at this point. You had the bear box on your back. You were on your own for days on end, meaning because that section of the PCT is so remote, there was not opportunity to finish at the RV, to sleep comfortably with your family. You were out there alone with a burden on your back and likely, I think you were falling off the pace a little bit there. Talk about the Sierra section and, just like I don't know, just what do you remember from that section? What was important about it? Did you ever, I don't know, have those doubts as you sort of felt like you were maybe falling behind or whatever? And you still had so far to go at that point.
Yeah, I think that being one of the things that I kept, that little nugget of like that there's so much more to go. And I kind of held on to that with all of its strength through that section because I did move a little bit slower than I wanted to. I don't think I was off pace. I think I was still ahead of him by a little bit. I went into the Sierras where it's just how it worked out. I did a 25-mile day and stopped right at that red I'm blanking on it. Red Meadows, the one right before going. No,
that's where I took you to Red's Meadow, and then you kept going.
Yeah, but prior to that, right as you enter the Sierras, and there's not a lot of access for my crew. I would have had to do like a 70-mile day or something to get where I wanted to. So I did a 25-mile day. Had a nice sleep with my crew, and then we went into getting ready for the Sierras mode of packing my bag and getting that all ready, and then kind of just game plan of next 4 days are by myself, and then I'll meet up with the crew as we get to Red Meadows. And so kind of just it's something that I probably could have game planned a little bit more going into. Is one of those things where I didn't have that as dialed in of knowing what I wanted for my sleep gear completely. And I think about those things and I could have been more prepared, but you had to be just in the moment. And I needed to decide there, with the weather, with everything, what I needed to bring weight wise and stuff. And so that just took a little extra time, and we decided to do a short day. And then the next day was a 45-mile day too, where crew could get to me. So I did that, and I didn't have to hike with my huge pack that whole time. I still had to carry, enough for 45-mile stretch, but I didn't have to do the bear box for that a little bit. And so then I met up with them, got the bear box, got everything else, and then went and slept for a night. We did like an extra 5 miles, got in like 50 miles that day, slept. And the next day, by myself with the bear box, all the stuff. And those days, went slower. It's just, you're going up past Forester's Pass. So you're at over 13,000 feet, rockier terrain. Yeah. And you just came from the Sierra. So my feet were pretty beat up with blisters. And it was a hard shoe choice too, where I was planning to wear a more aggressive shoe, just with more protection and stuff, and actually continued with what I wore pretty much the whole time. Being
more cushion,
two ultra parlay, which was just more cushion. The knit upper let my foot expand with the blisters and just how it rubs. So I went for a pretty more head cushion, but more minimal in protection shoe. Like it didn't have a rock plate. It was just just boost cushioning, and I'm really happy with that choice. I happy with all pretty much most of my choices. I felt like really they were inspired and like not even knowing, but it just, everything worked out really well.
One of the things I remember from our conversations that day, and we had amazing conversations that day. Maybe some of that stuff we'll make public in a future conversation. But one of the things, because I was just kind of fascinated about the strategy and your day to day. And I asked you, so are you ever laying down to take a midday rest or whatever? And your response was, no, I don't do that. But usually every day, sort of mid-morning, I find a nice rock and I sit down and I meditate. And I thought it was just hilarious, because it's so Tim Olson. And it's within this huge undertaking where every little thing, whether it's reaching into your bag to grab another gel or a bag of potato chips or whatever, or reaching down to refill your water bottle, everything is just a huge effort. Talk about the intentionality with which you maintained the commitment to your meditation practice out there, and what value you thought it provided you in those 50 days.
Yeah. It was incredible the amount of focus that this took. I don't think I actually realized it as much as going into that, but my meditation practice was the foundation for this whole thing. And I will totally lift it up as the reason that I finished this, because anytime anything went crazy, I would come back to my center, just into that heart cave to meditate and to radiate from there. And when I would pass a mountain lion and I was super scared and is it going to eat me? Instead of freaking out, I would come back to that breath, that meditation. I'd breathe into my heart, feel the warmth, and just come back to that space. And when I had to cross these raging creeks in the middle of the night where it's if I wash away, no one will ever see me again. No one will know. There was you don't know all these things coming in, or even just how the snow is melting. So how hard things are going to flow. And so you get to these spots where it's dangerous. It was wild. And okay, I can my heart's pumping so much right now. I could get really scared and nervous, or I can just come back to my center, come back to this form of meditation of just grounding myself within myself. And it was just the space I knew I could keep coming back to when I was ready to cry and quit because of what, the billion reasons that I could think of to complain about. I would come back to that space, and it helped tremendously. I don't know how many times, even the last 7 miles, the last little bit, my calf was cramping up, and I didn't know exactly how I was I knew I was going to finish, but there was a good chance that I might be crawling to the finish. I took a moment to just pause and to to take it in. And so my meditation practice, I kind of had a routine, after I'd get a couple really slow miles done in the morning, I'd warm up enough to that my joints were moving and stuff. And I would just take a moment to really appreciate being out there in nature, my body. And I would do a minute of just this slow qigong type movement, and then meditate. And I think there was one day that I didn't do it, that I was moving a little too much, where I was like, I didn't stop to do the Qigong and actually meditate. And I regretted it the whole time, because I was just like, it was just the space that I had to like, I don't know. I think it's something that one of the things that I really learned and really appreciated and I'm hoping to kind of bring back was that space in the morning where I like, got past the, oh man, I'm doing this again. And like, everything hurts and whatnot, and got to this moment of, let's give thanks for a moment, and just kind of like, a prayer, myself connecting with nature, connecting with just the source of all creation, and getting to just remind myself that this is why I'm here. This is what I'm doing it. And there was moments where I'm hurting so much, and I sat down to meditate and like had that thing, if I don't get up from here, that's okay. Like I'm
in peace.
I'm in peace. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons I do what I do, and is to find this peace, this, this tranquility that flows with this all the time, and that we just sometimes forget. And it's the running is this reminder, connecting with nature is this reminder to be in that space. And so that was like a goal throughout this thing of not, because I'd get to moments where just everything hurts, and there wasn't many times that like I wanted to give up, like I'm giving up on this, but there's just times where it's just so much pain, and I just really didn't know how to maneuver through it, or just so sleep deprived and like cranky and just like just Dude, in a low.
Yeah, I mean, again, it was something that stood out for me in our days-long conversation. The fact that you did carve out that time, and you really do, you have like this calm peacefulness about you, but you also have like this fierce intensity about you, dude. Then you can feel both of them when you're in your presence. At least I did that day that we were out on the PCT. And I think there's like, for example, it's easy to see this when you have, we're following your progress on Instagram. And I think a great example of this is the photo of you sitting in meditation at the northern terminus of the PCT, having just accomplished your goal, is like a goosebumps picture of you just sitting there in your peaceful tranquility. And then the photo that you posted after that to sort of announce it, where you have your arms spread out and you sort of have this primal roar, it sort of illustrates this fierce intensity that you have in yourself as well. I mean, I'm not getting to a question here, but I mean, it's just, it was phenomenal to see. And I think just like taking that space for yourself to be peaceful probably allows you to access that deep fierceness too sometimes, huh?
Yeah, I think there's something I really want to share with that, of like, I think it's been one of the biggest things in my life of, I have a huge fire burning with me. I have a deep passion. I have my spirit animals are wild, and I have, as you can feel, I have like a really intensity to me. And I'm very aware of that. And it's something I've not liked about myself. Like I can get really intense, and I can be really passionate about things and be opinionated. And I've had to work with that over my life of like, sometimes I get too excited and I'm just like too revved up. And it led to a lot more anxiety and like just judging myself and pressure. And then I found meditation, and it was like this way to like balance, like the balance beam. Like I was able to take that fire and that passion, and then that coolness of meditation and cooling it down. And then like sometimes, like the meditation takes more of a priority, and sometimes the running and the fire takes more of a priority. And I've really learned how to like balance both of those worlds and love both of them, because I really disliked the passion and fire in myself that led to me being so fiery, competitive, and just some characteristics that I wasn't overly loving of myself. I saw those in myself, and I'm like, that's just too intense. And I didn't like that in myself. And so then the meditation brought the coolness and brought me to calm down. And I also like I've chosen in my life to not just be a monk in, in meditating in the forest my whole life. I chose to have a family. I chose to have this career and bring that passion, bring that fire into this and combine the fire and the coolness together, the fire and water together to make me who I am and to learn to love all aspects of myself. And so then when I can throw that out in a huge project like that, you get to see the beauty of me. I'm a very, as we all are, very unique and interesting person that has a lot in me, a lot more than that I just show. As we all we're all these warriors, these people that can do so much more than we ever thought. And it sometimes just takes balancing, the whole aspect of yourself and learning to embrace all of yourself. And I think that's kind of what this lit up, that I was able to embrace myself, and I needed to take those moments of meditation and to chill out the fire. But then also I was, when I'm out there, I'm fierce, and I invite my spirit animals. I invite the trees and just all the positive beings and vibes that want to roll with me on that trail. I'm inviting them. So when I feel like I'm rolling down there, I roll deep. I roll with a gang of
squirrels and bears and mountain lions, deer. You're rolling deep.
Those weird Dr. Dolittle movies or something where you're connected with the animals and all of a sudden they're roaring with you down the way. And when I was running the trail,
Ace Ventura, that scene in Ace Ventura.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Dude, it's so cool. Let's talk a little bit about the record itself, because I'm sure this is something that was at least in the back of your mind every day. And I may have been mistaken when I said earlier that it felt like you were falling behind a little bit in the Sierra. How was your relationship with the pace, and how much information was the support crew sharing with you about where you are relative to the established FKT, and just anything else that you can provide about the psychological hurdle that you got to get over every day about where am I relative to what is my goal of setting the new speed record?
Yeah. It was something I kind of, I probably knew more than I wanted to most of the time.
Were you ever behind? Were you ever far behind?
No, I don't think so. I think
Okay.
Where I could have been is because he did some different fire routes, and he kind of just I did some back and forth, some out and backs on it. I did some extra mileage. So I ended up running, I think 50 plus miles more than him. And there was a couple times
dude, that's a full day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm pretty happy with where I ended and just the amount I had. There was one point where when I was having the injury in my leg right before I kind of entered Oregon, where I did a couple, I think I did a 46-mile day. And those days they were messing with me because I like keeping it around 50 miles. And when I just couldn't go anymore. It was so much pain. And it was, cool in that aspect that I was so limited and really struggling. And it definitely brought up a few times of okay, we're getting closer. Cause I think I had a 25 plus mile lead, or I think I had a 40-mile lead, but then when he did the fire closure, because we did them a little bit differently, all of a sudden he had 40 extra, it jumped. So it was within 20 miles or something of just how the math worked. Cause I was doing extra, all of a sudden we were a lot closer and I was hurting a lot. So I was taking these slower days and it was just getting more close than I wanted to. And the whole time I had, probably a half a day plus lead. I think I did a couple bigger days earlier on in the first couple of weeks in the heat, and I knew I had a little bit of a lead there, and I held on to that the whole way and then kept gaining towards the end. But it just, I don't know, there was just times where it messed with me, whereas like I was thinking about it a little bit, and especially when I was injured, of like, gosh, we're really getting close to what happens if I have to like really struggle towards the end, and like I'm that last day I'm pushing everything I got just to get it. And I didn't want to get to that space because like I knew how much I was pushing my body, and
you didn't want to sprint finish.
Yeah, I didn't want to sprint finish.
Well, dude, I bet that's when you feel as if maybe you're losing mileage or time against the established record when you're doing these reroutes. That's probably when that inner ferociousness is awakened within you. And I mean, obviously you made up a ton of time then from, Oregon to Canada. And ultimately you finish in 51 days, 16 hours, 55 minutes. So at what point did it become clear to you that, barring catastrophe, the record was yours? Or were you prevent defense the entire time?
Yeah, I was playing a little bit too much. I don't know. It's such a weird thing because there was moments, it kind of like switched hourly, where there was moments where I was playing more defense, where I'm just like, let's keep the shit together and stuff. But then it comes so close to unraveling, where I mean, it was a harder red line to be on compared to like a 50-mile race, 100-mile race, where you kind of know where you are. Where it was a little questionable of like where I knew exactly where I was on it, because if I pushed it a little bit, like anytime I did a 60-mile day, I was so much more fatigued the next day. I was like, little injuries would kind of creep up when I would push it just that little bit more further. Like 55 miles was okay. And then like I did some 60, 62-mile days, and just how much more that took it out of me. It was even just, I noticed that when I was doing like 50-mile days, like I could do 50-mile days and felt like I could do it again. Yeah, I could do this again. Mm-hmm. But anytime I kind of increased it past the 50 miles is when it was like, like this is getting dicey. And and like just muscles would get so tight, and where they could turn to injuries really quickly. And so I was like, having to stop on the trail to like work on my legs sometimes to kind of prevent things from getting any worse. And then things sometimes got worse, like that shin. I knew it kind of like, I don't know exactly what you want to call it, because it was like the tibialis shin muscle there, but I felt like it kind of ripped off of the bone there a little bit. And like, it got really red and swollen, and just the amount of pain it was in that section, where I couldn't put my finger on my shin, like muscle next to the bone. It hurt like my eyes lit up like I, like just got shocked by an electrical cord. Like it was wild how much pain that was in that. And then how I had a couple of days of just, I made it through the Sierras, and that was great, uninjured and like feeling really good. But that day that I met you, I can't remember exactly where we were at when I left you, 30 miles, but I ended up doing like 62 miles that day. So I went over the Donington Pass, and I wasn't planning to go that far. I was planning my crew was going to maybe hike in with some stuff to like sleep a little early. And it was farther than I thought. I was so tired. Like, I guess I started that morning with
this is why I was so blown away. I was completely smashed after 35 miles myself. You took an hour at Red's Meadow, took a shower, ate some food, fixed your feet up, repacked your bag, and you went and did like another 27 miles that night.
Yeah. It can almost another 30 miles.
Yeah, I was fresh, man. And you were freaking 900 miles deep. In fact, we passed mile 900 together. Remember, you had me take your photograph.
Yeah, totally laying on the ground. Yeah.
So talk about the finish itself. I just want to like get a glimpse into what this felt like, man. Like 51 days of being on the red line and sharing every day with your family, with your wife, your pregnant wife, Krista, your two sons, Tristan and Kai, with Bob and Debbie Loomis, your in-laws, with Jason Coop. Just like, what did it feel like to get to the Canadian border and realize this dream?
yeah, it felt like everything I could ever dreamed of. Like it's kind of like the question when you asked me before, which I knew I couldn't answer on there. If like, you've won Western States, had the course record there. Would this be a pretty good, exclamation mark to the career? And like,
Yeah.
I might still have some other plans. I might have some other things on my sleeve for the rest of this career, but like,
you could retire happy.
I'm content, man. Like that was, it was the biggest feat of my life. It just like, I've done ultras and like ultras got me into this to where I was able to train for the last, 10 years doing ultras to get me ready for this. I was running an ultra every day. And it helped so much, these 10 years of training and struggling through races and having those highs and lows. I like that taught me so much for this project, and to go out there and do it, and to like, just to be so worked and to get to that like those last miles. And it's kind of like where I was saying, where like there was moments where, man, I felt like I go a little faster, but then I'd go a little bit faster or something and just realize like I was just on the red line. I was there and just I couldn't push it any farther. And when I got to Canada, I spent everything I possibly could have done. I don't think I could have gone faster. When I think back to like when I did a couple shorter days, or like I was trying, there's just some things I did with timing wise and shorter days, and even like ending where I did before the last day. The mileage was a little goofy. I didn't know exactly where I would be. And we did a shorter day 2 days prior. So I did like 46 miles, and then I did 50 some miles, and then ended with a 60-mile day. But just how it kind of lined up, it was like these things I play in my head, like, oh, I should have done that a little better. I should have maybe went a little bit further this day. And then when I got to that last day, I just realized that like everything aligned exactly how it was supposed to. Like I just like, I needed to stop questioning myself, stop questioning everything. Like everything lined up so perfectly. And just like, it was just a miracle how everything lined up.
Man. Yeah, it's so cool. And you had that moment at the northern terminus where you're literally sitting in the lotus position in sacred prayer for what you just done, man. It's a goosebumps thing. It's so incredible.
My finish too, of just like it was everything I envisioned, of just getting back. Like I got to the end and I was kind of like fatigued. I kind of had this idea that I wanted to like roar at the end, or just kind of let it all out. And of course there's just so many down trees the last couple of miles, and it's so overgrown, and I was hurting so much. And even like, 10 feet before the finish, there was a down tree 10 feet before the finish that like you had to like kind of maneuver yourself over like 3 different trees, and then you were like by the finish. Like there was no sprint to the finish, because you had to like like maneuver your body all over these trees. And they were
the forest was telling you to be present and to enjoy those, totally. Take it easy and
take it all in.
Take it in.
And that was it too, is like I was struggling those last little bits. The calf was hurting so much. And I was going over this tree, kind of grumbling a little bit to myself. And then all of a sudden I started laughing and just like realized, like, why would I want the finish to be easy? Why would I want a red carpet like finish? I want it to be as gnarly as F. Like I want it to be as gnarly as can be, of like, this has to be hard. This has to be where I am struggling every last little bit to get to the finish. And then I got to the finish and like, touched Canada and like took that in for a second, and then let off like one big roar into the camera. I let off a couple roars, and I was just like realizing I was just purging the last little bit, the last energy, the last anything I had, any garbage that was left in me. I was just letting it all out. And then I was able to just sit there and just breathe and be in this moment and be like,
what did 100%. I just do? Man? Wow.
What just transpired?
Yeah.
And like,
let's talk about your trail name, because I think this is also a fun part of the story and fitting, very fitting. What's your trail name? How did it come about? And maybe do you feel that it's part of your identity now?
Yeah, I feel like I almost want to start.
Change your
I
name.
signed. Yeah, I signed an email yesterday, and they were asking me like, I'm gonna sign like some shoes or something, and I wanted to ask like, what do I sign it? Do I sign my name, Timothy Olson, or Mirage, like my trail name? And it's like I almost want to just start signing everything at the end, Mirage, like it. So it came about of just running through the desert and passing a lot of people, and of course people give me things like lightning or just these random ones. I'm like, no, there's no speedy or whatever speedster thing that you need. And then it just like some came like, gosh, you it's like a mirage, you pass by, you're like a mirage, and like that it just kind of stayed. And then I some other people were giving me names, and I like mentioned that one, and I could see people's eyes light up a little bit. I just like, and then I thought about it for a minute. I'm like, okay, a few of these people have shouted names at me. What's a good name? And then I like the Mirage one just kept coming up in my mind. I'm like, God, that's beautiful. That's like
It
totally
is.
what's going on out here. Of just like I'm just this light, just like reflecting and changing in the distance. And, you're not sure exactly what you're seeing in me. Am I real or not? And then just, I don't know, my kind of aspect of it, I just feel like it was this slow, like a mirage. It's just like, is that, what is it? And it's just kind of, it slowly just dissolves into nature of like, was it there? Was that, what did I see in the distance? How is this light reflecting off? And,
It's so fitting. It's so fitting.
yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah.
mean, when I heard it too, and I'm like, I should say I'm a big fan of like nicknames and sports and stuff. And,
Yeah.
I love it, man. I think you should totally adopt it and
Yeah.
maybe sign
Change
autographs.
it, change
Yeah.
it as
Change
Mirage.
it.
Yeah, I think it's really fitting, and I've never
Yeah.
like I've had so many like little random nicknames over the years, of course, of like Tebow or Timbo
Yeah. Yeah.
or T Love or all these different things, and just like nothing. I never wanted to ever be called anything else. I'm just like Timothy, Tim, whatever. And
Yeah.
then this is like this hits home. This is I'm Mirage.
Mirage.
Yeah, yeah.
Mirage.
Yeah, so don't try
Sweet.
talking to me out on the trails with this Timothy stuff. I only turn my head to Mirage now.
Damn
So.
straight, man. Cool. Well, we can start winding down. I don't want to take up your whole day. And, we've talked about a lot of fun things already, but I really want to focus on this theme of family a little bit before we close out. It's a special thing, man. It was so cool. I mean, I didn't get to spend a ton of time with Krista and the boys. I did get to talk to Debbie and Bob a little bit, but I mean, talk about just the shared experience of doing it with your family, and then also talk about the fact that you're about to have a baby girl. How is Krista doing? How are things going on that front? When is the due date? And just generally, I mean, one of the things you said in one of your posts that I thought was really beautiful is just something to the effect of, this is an immense and powerful time for our family. Like, you guys got to share a profound thing together for 51 days. And now you're going to start the next chapter as a larger family with the birth of your baby girl here very soon. Please reflect on all that.
Yeah, God, I don't even know how to like to say what's radiating inside. I'm so happy. I'm like yesterday was my Tristan, my oldest son's birthday, so he turned 9 yesterday, and he wanted to get up in the morning and do an early photo shoot. Like he wanted to. He's so what has this trip done for us as a family? He's got to hang with some of the best photographers, videographers in the world, like having Keith Ledzinski be a part of this project, and all the amazing people that joined us. And they turned into like, just our best friends. Like when Tristan's having a birthday party on Sunday, and he wants to invite the whole crew of all the camera people and like the people that were out there, because he loves them. He's got such a big heart, and it meant so much to him to be out on the trail, to make like Steven, this younger guy who was like an intern there. What a project for him, first of all, but they had so much fun hanging out, and like that's one of his best friends. He's like, Steven's got to be here for my birthday party. And gosh, and even like as we finished, like everyone was just hanging around. And of course I have my little intimate family, me, my kids, my wife, but having my father-in-law, mother-in-law, Coop, Jason Coop, my coach, and just the other people that came in, it was all family. Like, and we became so close, and just so grateful for the team that was a part of this. I couldn't have asked for a better team. I wouldn't have been able to do this without them. Well, like I really want to give thanks to them, and that's not even, and that's including my 8-month, like she's a couple weeks from popping out a baby full term. So like she blew my mind with just the power that she is, her being able to, like, she wasn't driving the RV beforehand and all of a sudden was like driving the RV, maneuvering it up these crazy dirt roads, doing all the things that, like, that I normally do. And she just took it on, and complete badass of just cruising up these dirt roads. And, just
shout out to Krista, man.
Yeah,
she's got a similar peacefulness, but also a similar, I don't know, just supportive intensity, like you can totally feel like she's the matriarch of the family, and she is like, like a critical piece of your ability to achieve something like this. And the fact that your kids are being raised to see what's possible, what humans can achieve, to have this love of nature and an adventurous spirit. It's a really special thing. In our last conversation, Tim, I want to give you an opportunity to talk about this too. Obviously, we talked a little bit about the troubles that you guys have experienced as a family recently, experiencing a couple miscarriages, and you did this project, at least in part, to raise some money for the Return to Zero Foundation, I think is what it's called.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that. How did that play into things, and maybe what impact did you have? And I'll definitely make sure to point people in the right direction to make a donation on your behalf.
Cool. Yeah. The Return to Zero, I think they're like on Instagram is like RTZ Hope or something, and just a really cool organization that is there to help support other families and people who have went through child loss, miscarriage, of just having baby loss, of having those something that happens to unfortunately so many people, and it's very prevalent, and I think more so just kind of bringing it to light a little bit of sharing it. A lot of people deal with having a miscarriage, maybe an early term one that wasn't as impactful in their life, but for some people it really is, and there needs to be no judgment around that, of how it affects you and how you need to heal through that. And so me and my wife, over the last few years, and my family, we've had 2 miscarriages, and one a later term one, and one an earlier term one, and both were super heart-wrenching, and just a really challenging thing to maneuver in life. And it really brought us to our knees, where like it really it was a really hard time for our lives, just our relationship, and just having to share that with our boys, of that they're not having a brother for one of them, and sister for the other one, and that was a really hard time in our life. And for me too, it was this time where I really from my past, I've struggled a lot in my past with being addiction and wanting to turn to like alcohol and drugs and stuff. And there was definitely moments in there where I felt really lost and really unsure of just how to support my family, how to support my wife, and how to support myself, and wanting to turn to not healthy things. And when we had our first miscarriage, and we were really struggling with that, I just kind of made this vow to myself to just like keep working on myself, keep trying to be the best version of myself I can be and be loving and share that with my kids and my wife. And it's turned around to, we've worked through these things, and it's taught me to go and get therapy and to actually talk to people about my struggles and talk about what I'm feeling, and then me and my wife getting to share and communicate. Just communication is such a powerful thing, and communication was actually a deep prayer I had for the last week going into this of communication, of course, for me and my family and stuff, but the communication for me communicating with this earth, and just how that keeps evolving over time, and how I can be, a beacon of light for this world. And that was kind of the prayer towards the end. And now that these past months, we have another baby on the way. I call Rainbow Baby, because it's right after we've had a couple losses, and she is joining us at the end of August. Everything has been going really, relatively smooth. We've had a little bit of, she's a very tiny baby, as me and my wife are tiny people. We're not producing giants. And so she's a little bit under, weight that they were a little concerned a week ago, but everything I think is coming together well. And our baby should be joining us in the next couple of weeks. And it's just this huge blessing of dealing with loss and just life. And
dude, what a metaphor for life it is, though. The last couple of years have been hard as hell for you guys, and you've had to sort of work on your relationship together, work on your relationships individually with yourselves, and then have this huge undertaking that then goes nearly perfectly, or as perfect as something that's that difficult to do can, and it's indicative of the fact that we do go through these seasons in our lives, these cycles in our lives where we experience these profound moments of grief and sadness, and then just these incredible feelings of success and victory. And it's all about, experiencing all these different things and
realizing that it's all part of it. And I wouldn't change a thing. I've had hardships in my life, but I don't regret them or want to change it. It's all perfect. It's all just how it's supposed to be. And all I can do is say thanks.
It's a phenomenal story too. And so we'll close by just talking about this, Tim. You disclosed to me, and if this is not public information or you want me to cut it out, I totally can. You said that you were thinking about writing a book, and also there's going to be a movie that's going to be made about this. I'm sure it's going to take a while for all those pieces to come together for a finished product, but we will be anxiously awaiting it. But bro, this is an amazing story. From what you've been through, that you've been open about in your past, dealing with addiction, dealing with hitting rock bottom, coming back, achieving, phenomenal things in the sport of trail and ultra running, being a transcendent figure in our sport, then having, a period of overtraining, of sort of underperformance, and then this stuff with your family, and now to come back and have this amazing PCT, fastest known time. I mean, it's a story, bro. Talk about how you plan to share this with the world. And if there's anything else that you can tease about, where people can learn more about your story.
Yeah, as you share my life, I just sit in awe. Sometimes I'm just so grateful of how things have transpired, and that, that I've had the life that I've had, that I get to share with people. It's such a gift to be able to share it with others, because we've all been through our own ups and downs and have our own life story. And we are all amazing, amazing people that are making this world the beautiful place it is. And we need to recognize that and own up to it. Instead of, having a bad day and thinking you're such a terrible person, we need to own the power that we have, and that we are all incredible people that can do amazing things. And we need to just live up to it and show up, we show up. That was like the goal of this, of every day when I was injured and I didn't know how I was gonna do the next day. I just figured I'd show up and just see what happens. So that's like that's all you can do. And that's what I ask of y'all out there, is just show up for your day, for your own individual life, and to be there, to be present, and to live it to the utmost. And now I hope to continue to share the story. It's something where
so now do you have to sit down at the computer and just start typing, or what?
Yeah.
I mean, are you going to write a book? Is that in the plan? And if so, obviously, you probably haven't figured everything out. You probably don't have like a contract signed yet, but
I don't. So yeah, let's bring it to the table. Let's see what we can do. And every day I would, because I was planning to like write and journal some, and I just there was not time to sit down and write. So probably 10 minutes a day or so, I would record a voice memo of just kind of what happened either that day or the days prior or something. And I did that pretty much every day. So I have,
make sure you embed that audio into the audio book.
Yeah. Really cool parts about that I guess I'll share here is I tried to record just a little note to my girl, Esmeralda, who's joining us. So I've been trying to kind of write her a little letter, or just a little note of just I think of her as this powerful little dragon, and I honestly felt like I was riding her wings to the finish of this PCT, where I'm so excited to meet my little girl and just feel like she's got a little bit of fire, like me, like her mama. That I feel like she played a big part in this journey, and I'm really looking forward to meeting her in a couple weeks, and eventually getting to share of just how impactful she was throughout this journey, and to just share my love for her, because it's just something that I thought about every day. And I definitely have some good voice memos of me cracking up, crying, saying, just that I just so grateful for how much she's helped me. And and that through this, I think I get to really share a lot of things, because I hope to kind of share the story of the PCT in the book that I've started writing. I'm trying to maneuver, but I also kind of want to share a little bit of my past and stuff. So I kind of hope to share my PCT adventure, and kind of how that all transpired, but kind of bring back to a couple of some really important races or times from my past, and just kind of share a little bit about my life. So I'm really looking forward to be penning this down. I've been writing. I started writing a few years ago, of writing kind of a little bit of my story, and now I have a bunch of chapters, and now kind of going through this, I'm hoping to put together just sharing a little bit about my life, and how I've turned things around, and how I pick myself up, dust myself off, and continue on, and that you can do the same. So I'm looking forward to sharing this hopefully in the next year or so. I think a movie will come out in 2022. So if I can get I want to be spending time with my family, and especially the new little girl, but I'm hoping to carve off a little time to keep writing this book as well, and share that with you all. Yeah.
Beautiful, Tim. Well, let's sign off there before I burst into tears. But bro, again, congratulations. You're a special person, man, and you deserve this amazing achievement. You earned every step of it. And it was just so fun to be there for one singular day and just witness what you're all about. So thanks for coming back on the podcast and sharing a little bit about the journey. You're an inspiration. You're a great ambassador for our sport. And I'm grateful for your time. Now go recover. Go lay on the couch some more.
Should I go rest? Should I just go rest? Yeah, man. Thank you for having me on the show. Thank you for joining me on the trail, man. That was one of my favorite days out there, and I'm really glad that I got to share that with you. And man, I let you carry my bear, pack for a little bit, and look what it did. You ripped it up at Hard Rock.
Dude,
Congrats
I
on
thought
Hard Rock,
about
man.
that. I thought about that a lot out there. It's just like, man, you know,
And
Timmy's
that Harmony had that little video of me like actually saying to you, like, you know, you carry my pack, now go kick ass at Hard Rock. And you did, and like yeah, so congrats, man.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Well, again, thanks so much, man. Really appreciate your time, and wish you guys nothing but the best in the next couple of weeks as you welcome child number 3 into the family. Give my best to Krista and the boys as well, and let's catch up again soon.
We'll do. And yeah, we'll have to get a run or a walk in at some point.
Yes, sir.
Not sure when I'm running, but I'll be back to it. Yeah.
All right, bro. Thanks a lot.
All right,